You know that feeling when you finally decide to start investing, but you only have a small amount of money? Maybe you have $10,000 saved up. It's not nothing, but it also doesn't feel like enough to actually build something meaningful. Most people in this situation do one of two things. Either they get overwhelmed and do nothing, or they jump into whatever looks exciting on YouTube and social media. And in both cases, they usually end up in the same place, frustrated and with less money than they started with. I'm Bob, and I spend most of my time studying markets and how normal people actually build wealth over time. If you're someone who wants to understand how to use a small amount of capital properly instead of gambling it away, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Today I want to talk specifically about starting with around $10,000. Not because 10,000 is some magic number, but because it's a very common starting point for a lot of beginners. And the way you approach this stage can either set you up for long-term success or keep you stuck for years. Let's be honest with each other first. $10,000 is not a lot of money in today's market. If you try to day trade it, the chances of losing a big portion of it are very high. If you put it all into one stock because someone on the internet said it's going to 10x, you're basically gambling. And if you spread it too thin across 10 different things, you'll probably make almost nothing after fees and effort. So what should you actually do? The first and most important thing is to change how you think about this money. Most beginners treat their first $10,000 like lottery money. They want it to grow fast, but the people who actually succeed with small capital treat it like seed capital. Their goal in the beginning is not to get rich quickly. Their goal is to stay in the game long enough to learn and compound. This shift in thinking is more important than any specific investment you choose. Once your mindset is right, the next step is to focus on building skills and a proper foundation instead of chasing returns. With $10,000, your most valuable asset right now is not the money itself. It's the time and attention you can give to learning how markets actually work. This is why many financial experts suggest that beginners with small capital focus heavily on low-cost, broad market index funds in the beginning. Something like a total stock market index fund or an S&P 500 index fund. Not because it will make you rich overnight, but because it removes the biggest risk at this stage, which is losing your capital while you're still learning. Let me give you some realistic math here so you understand what's actually possible. If you invest $10,000 in a broad market index fund, and it gives you an average return of around 8 to 10% per year, which is close to the long-term historical average, you would have around $16,000 after 5 years if you don't add any more money. That's not life-changing, but if you keep adding even $500 every month on top of that, the number becomes much more interesting over time. This is the part most beginners miss. Your first $10,000 is not the money that's going to make you wealthy. The habits, knowledge, and consistency you build while managing that $10,000 is what actually matters. Another important thing to understand is risk management. When you only have $10,000, you cannot afford to take big concentrated bets. Even if you feel very confident about a particular stock or sector, putting more than 5 to 10% of your capital in one idea is usually a mistake at this stage. The goal is to survive and keep learning. I've seen too many people start with 10 or 15,000, make some early wins through luck, then put everything into one or two positions and lose a large part of their capital. Once that happens, most people either quit or become too scared to invest properly again. So what's the practical path for someone starting with around $10,000 today? First, keep at least 6 to 12 months of your essential expenses in a high-yield savings account or something very safe. This is your emergency fund. Never invest money you might need in the next few years. Second, use the remaining amount to start building a simple, diversified portfolio. For most beginners, this means putting the majority into low-cost index funds. You can start with 70 to 80% in a total market or S&P 500 fund, and keep a smaller portion for individual stocks if you want to learn stock picking. Third, focus on increasing your income and your monthly investment amount over time. The truth is, $10,000 alone will grow slowly. But $10,000 plus consistent monthly additions and improving knowledge can become something meaningful within 5 to 7 years. Fourth, treat every investment decision as a learning opportunity. Keep a journal. Write down why you bought something and what you expect to happen. Review it after 6 months or a year. This habit alone will put you ahead of 90% of beginners. And finally, be extremely patient with the process. The biggest advantage you have right now is time. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, even small consistent progress can turn into serious wealth over the next 15 to 20 years. But if you try to force big returns too early, you'll most likely set yourself back instead of moving forward. Starting with $10,000 is not a disadvantage if you approach it correctly. In fact, many people who started with even less have built substantial wealth over time. The difference almost always comes down to patience, consistency, and the willingness to keep learning instead of chasing quick profits. If this video gave you a clearer picture of how to think about your first $10,000, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. In future videos, I'll go deeper into specific portfolio examples, how to analyze individual stocks properly, and how to avoid the most common mistakes beginners make with small capital. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.